Fired up, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. A little later than usual. Good reason for that. I hope you're having a great day. It's been a day here.
Has been a day.
Been busy. A lot of things happening. New partnerships are forming. We got stuff going with FedCon. Go to fedcon.com. Scrolling across the bottom. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that every day. And yeah, so we're live. We have a special guest this afternoon. I don't want to delay too much. So we'll talk about FedCon. We'll talk about a couple of different things throughout this live. If you're with us, jump in the comments, say hello, let us know how everything is going where you are. And as you're listening, join in the conversation. Let us know if you have questions. Absolutely jump in with some comments. We would love to hear feedback. We'd want to start a conversation. So without further ado, our special guest today, if you've been following along on all of our media channels, is a gentleman by the name of Yassin. And this man is unbelievable. He's a powerhouse in his industry, in his company.
He has the best ideas all the time.
Always coming up with amazing ideas. But honestly, Origo BPO is the company he's with, one of our amazing sponsors for FedCon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Yassin.
Hey, what's up, FedCon, Fed Nation? Rich, Lisa, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Man, we're super happy to have you. Before we get into anything, let everyone know where you are right now.
And what time it is.
I'm joining you all the way from the Philippines. It's 5 a.m. and the wife is not too happy about it. But here I am,
Doing what you got to do. So, yeah, and also I'll give a brief description on what Origo is and your role there.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Yassin Shaar. I'm one of the partners and the Chief Growth Officer at Origo BPO. And what we do is we partner with field service companies to help them expand into new territories faster, reduce their overhead cost, and improve their service levels across the board by building remote teams for them out of our offices in the Philippines.
There you go. And yeah, so and for those of you out there watching, Yassin and I and Scott, if you're watching, hello Scott, I haven't talked to you in a while. He's over in Australia, and right, he's in Australia. He is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So, we met. I don't know if it was during the pandemic or right. Yeah, it was pretty much during the pandemic. We started connecting, and we had the Food Equipment Service Leaders Summit virtual. That was an amazing, online event that went down, and we've kind of just been staying in touch and staying close, and now we're working together here with FedCon. Again, you're a sponsor, continuing to support us, so it's super appreciated. But I want to dive into some stuff because.
Can I just say something?
Elisa's going to jump in.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Origo for connecting us with who helps me on the back end, which is Juan Carlo. He helps me a lot with video editing and all that stuff. So thank you guys.
Yeah. He's a superstar, and you're amazing, to work with Lisa. So we're grateful to have you as a partner.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, no, that is true. Does a great job for us, and but yeah, so let's talk about some of the things going on in the industry, Yassin, because I know we were briefly talking a little bit about technicians, how they're hard to find, how they're all the different things that are going on in our industry. Let's talk a little bit about what we were just kind of touching on.
Yeah, and so we recently partnered with Total Food Service Magazine. Shout out to Michael and Randy over there. And we interviewed 10, top executives in the food equipment industry, like, Josh Zollin, Pat Duffy, Dan Kaltenbach, and a lot of great executives. And, we asked them about, like, what are the top opportunities and challenges they're looking to tackle in 2022. And guess what was the top priority?
Tell me the top priority.
Hiring technicians, right? Obviously, there's nothing new there.
Always, right? Always.
Right. But what became more evident is that a lot of companies are now using, sign-on bonuses and financial incentives to attract technicians, and it's creating like price wars. It's a brutal seller's market. And this reminded me of Dan Kennedy, who's probably the most accomplished marketer out there and advertiser, alive today, and who says, the one who can spend the most to acquire a customer profitably wins. If you and I, Rich, we're competing for the same customer, but I can outspend you on booking TV spots, buying Super Bowl ads, hiring all the salespeople in the market, I'll beat you 10 out of 10 times. It's just simple math. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right. So, and the same applies to technicians, right?
Sure.
The one who can spend the most to attract and retain technicians profitably wins. Now, I'm not advocating or justifying the price war going on by any means. It's just simple, it's just simply the law of supply and demand at play. The less supply there is of something, the more expensive it is. And those who figure out how to pay for it win. So the question is, right, how can service companies afford to compete on paying high wages to technicians when they don't have like a war chest laying around or VC money behind them? And I guess that's what I would love maybe to chat a little bit about and go back and forth and mastermind.
Yeah. So for us here in New Jersey, like you said, we are seeing that. And it's happening across the country, talking about these wars that are out here and prices are getting driven up. And, it's really making, when you talk about profitability, what that could do to our margins. And it is affecting them right now as we stand here and speak. You have technicians that are out there, and unfortunately it's not all, but there are guys out there that are just not really even looking at the full big picture, but they're kind of just looking for the next dollar, $5. And it's obviously not a solution. That's not how we're gonna, to gain technicians. We're not gonna solve that problem. We need new blood. We need new people. We can't just keep stealing from each other.
Yeah, and 100%. We don't want to be stealing from each other, but also how do we attract technicians from outside the industry to this industry, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't know about the industry, and if you talk to some of the leaders like Roger Smeltzer, right, he's very much in tune to where that next wave of technicians is going to come from. So in our experience working with some of the fastest growing field service companies like SmartCare USD on the hot side in the hot side industry, what we found is the key to really being able to compete for technicians across industries and attract new blood into the industries to be able to obviously afford to pay them high wages. But how can you afford to pay them high wages is by really increasing your profit per technician. The more profits you can generate from every technician you're running, the more you can afford to pay higher wages. It's just as simple as that. And the biggest mistake I see a lot of service companies make is hiring new technicians while their profit margins are so low. Which is a recipe for disaster in this market condition because they won't be able to compete for long. So then the question is, what's the fastest way to increase your profit per technician? Would you like me to share some examples from our experience, Rich?
I would love to. Yeah, but I want to hear what you're seeing. I mean, the first thing for me that I would think of, and I'll let you answer or give us that data right now, but would be kind of doubling down on the guys you have and getting them to be more efficient, right? I mean, instead of doing 2 calls a day, doing 4 calls a day. Instead of going without, the 5, 6, 7, 8 parts, you need, make sure you're going with the 5, 6, 7, 8 parts you need. I think these are like things that I kind of know. And someone I went to the conference we just went to, like, if you know better, would you do better? And everyone was like, well, sure, I would. But there's like, it's like, I know if I go to the gym and I work out and I do this consistently, like, I'll get better at it, but I don't do it. So some of these things, might fall on absolutely like the owner or manager's point for me to drive those things and execute. But those are just a couple of things. But anyway, I would love to hear more.
No, and you're spot on. Look, and I don't blame the service agents, and there's just so much going on today. We get too stuck in the weeds of the operation that we fail to take a step back and look at the big picture and identify all these opportunities for improvement, or maybe we see these opportunities, but we just really don't have the time, frankly, to just stop and pause and ponder and work and improve, right? Which is why partnerships with companies like SmartCare and UST work so great, because we're that partner coming from the outside looking in, right? We're able to execute some of these operational improvements. But and you touched on training and upskilling technicians, definitely, right? That's a surefire way to increase their first time fixed rate, reduce time to resolution, which can definitely give you a bump in profits. But it's not necessarily the lowest hanging fruit. You gotta fly them out to Cefesa. You gotta train them. You gotta have them, right. So it's more on the long tail. However, one of the fastest ways we found to increase your profit per technician is actually by plugging the holes in a service company's back office and support operation. And here's what I mean. When a technician is dispatched to a job, right? What we find is the dispatcher rarely asks the facility manager if they need the technician to look at maybe other equipment that may require maintenance. Or when the technician is on site, they rarely ask the manager for more work. And a lot of times, right, the manager grabs the technician before they leave, right, after they're done from completing the job, the initial work order, and they're like, hey, can you take a look at this piece of equipment or that, right? Which then triggers another truck roll, right? Because maybe they don't have the part, or they're out of time and they need to go to that next job. But even when a technician asks for more work orders, one of the problems we see is the dispatch team can't get the estimates out fast enough while the technician is still on site, right? Which triggers another truck roll and cause a loss of profits. So one of the simplest things that we've done is for some of our partner companies is simply change the script. When a service call comes in and they're like, hey, I needed to come and check this fridge or check this piece of equipment, literally we added one more sentence, right, to almost double the transaction value by asking, what else, what other equipment would you like the technician to check out while they're still on site? By simply adding this single sentence to the script, right, we were able to increase the average order value or average job value. And it's so simple to do, but also, like you said, so simple not to do.
Right. True. Man, that does make a lot of sense too. That's definitely something I'll say from my perspective, and we're not a large company, so you would think, there's not that many. We should be able to, drive on that, and I'm going to actually think about that to implement, because we don't actually have a set way that we're talking to every customer. There's not like there's no script, there's no anything. It's just like, hey, what's your service call? Okay, I'll send you this, done, right? I think that's something that we should probably think about from because we're always thinking about the technicians and doing stuff, but we're not really thinking about in-house. That's a great point. Anybody watching, someone said they're taking notes. I'm taking notes too.
Yeah, and we simply can't afford to make such errors because, Rich, we're dealing with tens of thousands of work orders a month. So one simple mistake could be costing our partner literally hundreds, if not millions of dollars. So we just can't afford. Hope for us is not a strategy. We rely on systems, SOPs, and processes because experience taught us so. Not because we're too smart. We just we've made the mistakes, and thankfully we learned not to leave things to chance. So now we've got a script every time a service call comes in. Of course, we keep it conversational. We do a lot of role plays. We'll listen to calls. We coach the dispatcher not to be robotic, and like you gotta make sure that you're still conversational, and right, you don't sound robotic, and you don't come across like so you're talking to humans at the end of the day. So you got to keep that make sure that there's you're using empathy. I'm sorry to hear that your equipment is down. I'll make sure it's being taken care of, but make sure that there are at least guidelines, like a more of a checklist, to make sure that, hey, you are consistent in hitting these milestones in your script as you take in that service call. But also now, sometimes you don't get that extra work order over the phone, but that comes in maybe when the technician is on site. But sometimes the technicians don't have the confidence that, hey, if I try to get this work order, it will take days for the estimates to go out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not going to even trouble myself putting in a new work order. I'll just take down the note, and then I'll circle back to this once I'm back home or whatever. And sometimes it never gets done, and that creates a bad customer experience. So what we've done is we've actually dedicated team members to literally just sending out estimates. And the reason we're able to do that, right? Obviously, the leverage of having a team in the Philippines, obviously the cost is not as much as hiring someone that's local. So what we do is we segregate tasks. The team in the Philippines, their job, when we deploy a remote team in the Philippines, we're not looking to replace anyone locally, right? We're not looking to replace the local staff. What we're looking to do is free up the local staff from all the mundane, repetitive, data entry, low dollar value work, so they can focus on the higher higher value jobs, right? And just take a lot of that work off of their plate. And you can afford to specialize people, right? Just like Henry Ford, when he created the assembly line, right? He was able to 10x his production. Same thing we do here. We follow the Henry Ford school of thought. We specialize, we break up the process and specialize people in each set of the process, and they just do the same thing over and over to achieve that level of mastery. And that's what we do. We've got literally people dedicated to sending out estimates, and you almost can't send estimates fast enough, right? So the faster you can send estimates, right? Money loves speed. So the faster we can send those estimates out, the more money comes in, and our partners love it.
Yeah, and that is true. We talk about that here often. I mean, these are all things that and if you're a service company and you're watching, I know you're in the same boat. I mean, we're all doing a lot of the same tasks every day, and getting those estimates out for some reason can be a daunting task. We might send out 10 really fast, but we might send out 20 really slow. There's not a lot of consistency, and there's different variables for that. We could probably drill some of those down if we sat down and wrote them out. But yeah, I mean, and like you said, speed is of the essence. Whether you're selling equipment or service, people are not in the mindset of tomorrow. They don't want to hear about it. They want to know now. If you wait too long, and usually it could be a couple hours, it could be the next day, it's over. Especially with equipment, because a lot of times we'll say like a steamer goes down, and it might be one of the big ones, a 5-pan, stacked, and the bottom's not working, but the top one is, and you give them enough time to work with just the top, they're going to say, you know what? We don't need that bottom. We don't forget about that repair. We're good to go. We're getting by just fine with the top. So now, we've seen that before. Same thing with fryers. You 4-bank. If you let the customer get by with 3, they're going to say, I don't need that. I mean, they might repair it down the line. They might not. So there's thousands of dollars being left on the table every day from this stuff. It's a real problem.
And one of the reasons why estimates don't go out consistently, really, it's not because like the staff are lazy, right? Like, we all know we're very grateful for our people and our team, and they're working their butts off, taking care of business. But it's just, there's just so much work. It's a tough job market. There's low headcount, and we're back to, service levels are back, and we're over capacity. And people are wearing multiple hats. They're doing billing. They're doing collections. They're jumping on the phone. Yeah. They're sending out invoices. They're going to the post office. So when people are like doing so many different things, they really don't have the chance to just focus on one job at a time. And that's the advantage of having a hybrid team. You've got local staff and you've got remote staff. And then you give the right task to the right people. Right, you've got your local staff focused on the high dollar value activities, talking to customers, resolving disputes, right? All of that, right? Specialized knowledge, it's kept right onshore, and then all that data entry, updating the ERP, checking the invoices, auditing the invoices, screening invoices, reconciling accounts. All of that is done offshore, so that speed of service, right? And again, we can't afford. We can't, when we're working with enterprise companies, you can't just afford to make these mistakes, because you're talking, right, rolling out a process across 20, 30, 50, 100 locations. And if you're not consistent, right, you can't expect your partners to stick around with you. So would you like me to share another example of how you could get a bump in your profits and increase your profit per technician?
I'm sorry, Yassin. I had someone at the door trying to ask me a question. They hand wrote it on a piece of loose leaf so I could read it. So ask me that one more time.
I'm saying, would you like me to share another example of how you could, increase your profit per technician?
Hey, please, yes. Yeah. This is
so,
big.
Yeah, I mean, collections, right? Yeah, nothing magic, right? Yassin, obviously. But what we're seeing, a lot of companies are coming to us, especially after post-COVID, with $500,000, $2 million, $5 million in AR that's overdue. And that just kills a company's cash flow and profitability. Research shows that the longer service companies wait, the less they collect. $1 million in AR today is only worth $700,000 in 3 months. It's worth $500,000 in 6 months, and it's only worth $200,000 in 1 year. So the longer you wait, unfortunately, a lot of service companies think, oh, the money, that's stuck in the AR is like a bank account. I can ask for it whenever I want, and I'll just withdraw. But that couldn't be further than the truth, because the longer you wait, the less you'll collect. They forget about the invoice, and they just, you're right. So it's just, it's literally like burning money. All the effort and money that went into getting a job completed, training the technician, dispatching them, stocking the truck, getting the job done, right? It all goes to waste. So one of the easiest way to increase your profit per technician is by simply staying on top of your AR. And again, we go back to segregating tasks. I know there's a lot of portals to handle, a lot of, email, phones, right? We tend to send the invoices and forget it, and we don't follow up. But our data shows is that the amount of invoices we collect is in direct proportion to the number of follow-ups we make. The more follow-ups we make, the more we collect. Very simple formula. However, we go back to low headcount, people wearing multiple hats. They're already drowning in paperwork. How can they follow up once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times over, 1 month, 2 month period? And again, we go back to a hybrid model. You've got your local staff taking care of disputes, where, talking to the service manager, to the technician, making sure, they correct the errors on the invoice, right? But then you've got someone behind the scenes sending out all the emails, updating the ERP, reconciling payments, right? Because a lot of times, we may collect on an account, they send us the payment, but then we call them again in a week. It's like, hey, you haven't sent us the payment. So I just did. Why the heck are you calling me? Stop calling me, right? And it just creates bad customer experience. It's because there's no one dedicated to reconciling accounts. So again, one of the easiest ways to pick up more profit per technician is by staying on top of your AR.
Man, yeah, and we've talked about this in the past too. Yeah, I mean, this is true. Again, from our perspective here, billing it wasn't always as much of a problem, but as we've grown, it's gotten tougher. Back when we had 5, 6, 7 techs, every single job we did was billed that day. Literally that day. We didn't leave until it was done. But now you're at 17 here, 5 across. I mean, we have 20, 21, 22 guys. it's gotten harder. And the pandemic did set us back because we had to find different team members to come in and help, and we got that going here again, which is great. But there's still that lack of getting the billing done in a timely fashion. If we're doing a job today, and I know service companies across the company are going to shake their heads and go, I know, yeah, if we're doing that like on today's the 15th, the 16th, or whatever it is, 16th, we might not build this out until February 21st, 23rd. I mean, some cases it could be more than that, if depending on things, and especially when you're working with some of these other third-party vendors like Service Channel and Origo, that's double we have to do double the work. So now we're going from our system, now we got to enter it in their system, then we got to wait on approvals. I mean, there's so many things that slow it down, and that's one of the big things that we've been discussing here as far as the billing, because cash flow is tremendously important. It's the oxygen we need to go to the next level. So,
and that's why, again, we go back to the hybrid model, right? When you have a remote team that could just take care of that portal administration, can do all the updates, right? You free up your local team to just really take care of business. And I know we're running out of time here, but if I would leave you with one last example, and that would be making sure that your technicians are not spending too much time doing admin work, calling manufacturers, ordering parts, right? These are things that we see that kills a technician's productivity. Instead of them focusing on fixing equipment, like they're doing all of this admin work. And there's research, I think, by Apify that shows that on average, technicians spend at least 1 hour every day on admin work, and that's not billable hours, right? It's half the problem if that was billable, but they're spending this admin time outside of the billable hours. So if you have like 21 technician rich, that's 20 hours a day multiplied by 30. That's 600 hours a month. Multiply say the street rate $100. Yeah. I'm not good at math, but you're talking about at least $60,000 a month. Multiply that by a year. Now you're like over $750,000 in lost billable hours. That's one of the things that you can do is make sure that someone else is taking care of all of that admin work, so that so you've got someone in the back of the house talking to the coordinating between the technician and the manufacturer. They're going on PartsStem website, they're researching parts, or right, and they're doing all of that legwork, so that they can free up the technician to focus on just making sure that they put their time into just working on equipment. And then of course there's remote troubleshooting and all of that, which is really the future of this industry. But that's a conversation for another day. And these are only 3 out of almost 30 plus cases we examine when we start working with a partner. We run them through what we call our profit score quiz to identify areas in their business that's leaking profits. And for Fed Nation, if anyone would like help with running their business through our assessment tool, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to extend help.
Yeah, so I wanted to actually bring in a couple comments that we got here while you guys were talking. Unfortunately, StreamYard is having issues with LinkedIn, so I can't bring those up. But Jesse Cole, our dude Jesse Cole, says, when you have consistency in place, it's easier to gauge and improve results. Absolutely.
True. I wanted to bring this one up. I don't know who this was, Facebook user, but you bill your customer for the time to look up parts. Why bring into the office running up more overhead? I'll let you jump in on that. I mean, for me, I'll say, so we do try to typically have our technicians look up the parts and find the parts. But, from what I'm finding, actually, as we're starting to look into things more, is that a lot of technicians are getting incorrect parts, and we're sending parts that aren't even correct. And there's different reasons for that. And if we took it from a warranty perspective, which we do a boatload of warranty, maybe 20, let's just say a quarter of our business is warranty, okay? Most manufacturers no longer pay your technician to call in. So once you call in, you're off the clock. If we're there for an hour and he's on hold for an hour with the manufacturer, that hour, like you said, that hour's gone. They're not paying for that. So there's hours in the warranty process that are going to be lost if you're going to be on hold. And as we're talking, I'm kind of rethinking what the next steps are going to be for us with technicians. And I have a meeting Friday morning. I'm going to start gathering some information and insight from people. Do we start to look and build more of an in-house team to help with parts research? I mean, we have a parts department, but what's really the best route? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good question. What all it comes down to is utilization. If yes, you're billing for that part, but how much is that taking away from their ability to go on another service call that will lead to, if they're billing for a part, right, and they're spending 30 minutes on that, they could have gone, if you add it all up, they could have done on X more numbers of jobs that would give you a higher return than
Sure.
on, right? Because on
Yes.
average, say $500 per work order. How many work orders could they have gone on instead of ordering those parts? So it's really best. It's how do you best utilize your technician to complete more jobs? So it's all about completing more jobs, because this half an hour part could lead to 2 additional billable hours had
True.
they been freed up to go on more jobs, right?
True. That is
So,
true.
and it all compounds, and your profitability. So it's all about profitability at the end of the day.
It is. That's
and-
true.
and-
That's a good point, because when we're sitting here and we're trying to get all these calls done, just like a restaurant. I always look at a restaurant. I often refer to the same thing. They're trying to turn tables. They're trying to get you in, appetizers, everything out. There's time, and it's all about time in a restaurant too. We got to get you out so we can turn that table 10 times that day. The same thing for us here. I mean, we want to turn these calls, and if we're spending, let's just say, an hour on this call and an hour on the next call, that's 2 hours. One, he could have been driving to a place, and then on the site, we could have built out another 500, 600, 700, whatever it might
Or
have
fixing
been.
more equipment on site. Like, instead of staying on the phone, like, you can increase that transaction, that visit value. Instead of being on the phone, you could pick up another $200. Just extend the hour. Avoid going on another trip, and because already there's sunk cost in that visit, and it's fixed, right? It costs you, say, $50 to roll a truck, but now you're picking up additional $200, $300 on that same visit. Would you rather bill additional 30 minutes for ordering a part, or pick up another work order for $500?
Yeah, we want to maximize our time. And the technicians, we talk about the technicians are the lifeblood. Keeping them stagnant, and it doesn't make sense. Keeping them stagnant and standing still on a phone, it's just not profitable. It's very true.
The technician to just churn, like, they feel underutilized, right?
100%.
And it's like, that's not. I mean, I'm not here to answer the phones and call, and it just frustrates them. These guys want to fix stuff, right? They have that sense of fulfillment. They pride themselves of solving customer problems, and when they're on the phone, they're not solving any problems.
No, and you're spot on, because even the last meeting we had, and that meeting is on YouTube. I don't know, not the whole thing is not there, but we did touch on systems and procedures. Like you talk about, because Origo, I could tell you, just from working with them in the past couple of years, they are very systematic and procedural, almost to a science, and it really does make a difference. And that's where we want to get to here. So, talking with the guys, like, wish we had a better system and procedure. Why am I sitting on hold? And why am I doing this? And why? I just want to go to my next job. I just want to fix stuff. So you're 100%. I mean, they don't want to do all that. They want to work on equipment. They want to solve problems. That's what they love.
Exactly. So the more we keep them away from what they love, the less we'll retain them.
That's true too. We got more stuff.
We got some more comments coming in here. I emailed to get my answers to help keep the phone time down, but I have the experience to know what to ask. So, I mean, especially with younger technicians, they may not know.
True. Okay. What else we got?
We do both. Majority of parts research is done by admin office, while more specialized parts are researched by the service tech to try and avoid mistakes.
Yeah.
Also, the tech is on site doing the research, so his time is included in the billing.
Right, which we touched on, and I understand that. Same thing that Yassin was saying. They could be maximizing their time. Reverb here.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to get into too much into this, but I believe the industry is shifting. I believe, and this will be controversial, so bring the heat. That's fine. Uh, the old game is field service. The new game is remote service. You're going to find more and more clients over the next 3 to 5 years requesting remote support, remote diagnostic. And you'll see more and more technicians, instead of sending them in the field, they're sitting behind computers. So when you have technicians sitting on a computer who's doing the bot research, it's very different than an average Joe like me who's not technical, right? Trying to research a part and pulling up schemas and right. But when you have a technical person doing that work, then you can really offload your technician. So we're seeing, again, working with some of the fastest growing field service companies, we see what's going on behind the scenes and what they're investing in. And let me tell you, a lot of money is going into building that what we call digital support remote technician team to support your field service team and increase that productivity, first time fixed rate, time to resolution, remote diagnostic, even achieve that fix rate over the phone, right?
Yeah.
How amazing it would be, right? And you'll see a lot of chains and some of these big grocery stores and restaurants, they require to give you a contract. We don't want you to dispatch a truck for level 1 support. We've got our facility maintenance guys. All we need you is to guide them over the phone. If they need to change a filter, like whatever, like do that over the phone. Do not charge me for a dispatch, for a truck roll. I'm not paying you.
Yeah.
And they make it part of the contract. So if you want to play with the big boys, right, those big chains, restaurants, they're starting to push for remote support. And you'll see that becoming more and more the trend in the upcoming month. Yeah.
So yeah, and I know I've talked about this with several different people, and mentioning this is something getting rid of those nuisance calls. Definitely, we don't want to send a guy to plug something in or change a filter. That's not where the bread and butter is. We want to be there for the real repairs, right? Where the technician's expertise is needed. But aside from that, let's talk about like monetization on that. You're saying that is this something that we would build into like a contract price, or would it be a per call price, or would it be like,
you're talking my language. So here's my opinion. Again, I'm an intruder on this industry. I've only been into this for 2 years now, but I'm in love with it. So I'm the kind of guy who breaks things around the house. I don't fix it. I have to call my father-in-law sometimes to help me out. So you can make fun of me, but obviously opposite attracts, and I'm in love with this industry. But frankly, I think the service model is broken. And here's what I mean. The current monetization way, where we only get paid if the equipment breaks down, is flawed, because that's in misalignment with the customer outcome. The customer desired outcome is equipment uptime, but we only get paid if the equipment is down. So, right, there's misalignment there. So I believe the future is in predictive maintenance, and charging. It's like an insurance policy. You only pay me if the equipment is running, especially with the introduction of IoT, where we can monitor, especially right now, like walk-in freezers, right? You can monitor from remote the performance of the freezer. You know how many times the walk-in freezer was, the door was open, and right, and all of that. So with the introduction of IoT and all of that, you're going to start more and more seeing, predictive maintenance programs. And where we're charging customers based on uptime, not on when an equipment is down. They pay. In fact, when it breaks down, you don't pay me, right? You only pay me if I keep it running. And we're seeing a lot of investment going into asset management, collecting data on assets. So after you've collected data on, say, on 30, 1,000 combi ovens, you can now start almost predicting that, hey, 20% of combi ovens in 3 months, this part breaks. And then, so therefore, right, we should, be proactive about changing this part, right? And if it breaks down, I'll come and fix it for free. And that creates a recurring model. And I know Chris Rolling is big on recurring revenue.
Yeah.
That creates, right, less reactive calls, reactive maintenance, more predictive maintenance, right, where there's no pressure on the technician, and right. So I think that's where the world is heading. I might be crazy. My wife tells me all the time, but I think that's where we're heading.
Interesting. It's an interesting conversation, and this is, I mean, we're smack dab in the middle of all the disruption. So it's like you said, you're going to be seeing a lot of these different changes in all of our neck of the woods. So, and that's, one of the big things we love to talk about here is being that forward thinker. Don't be closed-minded. Be aware of what's happening and learn what's happening so you can adapt and jump in the pool, because if you don't, you just might get eaten alive. I don't know what else to say.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So, Yassin, we'll take this Fired Up down. For anyone that wants to learn or know more about Origo, where are we going to find you online?
Yeah, you can go to, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, or you can go to origobpo.com. And I'm looking forward to boom.
We got that up on the screen. We'll leave that there. So
it's also linked in the description.
It's also linked in the description. But yeah, go over to origobpo.com. And I think, and I don't know if I should say this out loud. I get myself in trouble all the time. But well, no, I think we're going to look to do something for FedCon. Obviously, Origo is a big sponsor for us. Maybe we'll look to do something to for attendees that haven't got tickets yet. Maybe we'll do like a little something in the works where it could really benefit attendees.
Absolutely.
So we'll stand by, ladies and gentlemen, for maybe an email blast and some announcements on the media channels on a little extra when you get your ticket.
There you go.
I love it.
So Yassin, I appreciate your time.
Yes.
This has been a great conversation. This is something I would love to continue talking about. Maybe as new things develop, we'll stay in touch and we'll jump back on and maybe even get another service company or someone else on board with us so we could kind of have a little discussion and get some more minds racing.
Yeah, totally.
Got me fired up. Appreciate you, Rich, Lisa,
fired up. Fed
Nation. One of the best communities out there. Grateful to be part of it, and thank you for having me.
Well, we're thankful to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, stay fired up. We will see you mañana. Have a good one.